You know, I'm going to say something that's going to make a lot of people in this community a little uncomfortable. Most bug out plans, and I mean the vast majority, are going to fail when they're needed. Not because they're stupid or they didn't try. There's a lot of mistakes that most beginners make, and well, even a lot of experienced preppers when they're planning out their bug out plan. And most of them never figure this out until it's too late. I've been prepping here in the Ohio Valley for years. Tested out my own plans. I've talked to hundreds of people. I've seen the same mistakes over and over again. So today, I'm going to walk you through the most common mistakes that I've seen in people's bug out plans. And if your plan has any of these, you might want to change it. Okay, so before we get into the reasons why most bug out plans fail, I want to set the stage for what we're actually talking about now. Your bug out plan is not just a bag, it's not just a route, it's a complete system. Your bug out plan is a sequence of actions, capabilities, and decisions to get you and your family from danger to safety under pressure. So most people build half of this plan, right? They buy a bag, they get a general idea of where they might go, and they feel prepared. That's not a plan, but it is a start. A real plan has been thought out, tested, and communicated to everybody involved. So by that standard, well, that's where most people fail. So right now I'm going to give you the reasons that most plans aren't really a plan. So the most common reason I see that people's plans are going to fail, and I'm going to put this first because this is the foundation for everything. Most people don't have a real bug out location. Most people have kind of a vague idea. Well, I'm going to go Uncle Bob's house, or I'm going to go up into the mountains and we'll figure it out when we get there. That's just setting yourself up for failure. A real bug out location is someplace you've been to, someplace you have access to, someplace that has resources and that is stocked to last you a lot longer than whatever's in your bug out bag. Okay, so here's why this is the most important thing. Your entire timeline, your entire bug out bag, all depends on getting to a specific location. If you don't have a specific location, then everything else in your bug out plan is just built on sand. So I see this all the time. People say, well, I'm just going to go to so and so's house out in the country. Okay, that's fine. Have you been there? Do they know you're coming? Is there anyone else coming? Do you have supplies set up out there? Because if you don't, this is just a pipe dream. So how do you fix this problem? Find a specific location. Make arrangements. Make sure the people there know you're coming, if there is anyone there. Have it stocked and ready to go, because everything else in your bug out plan is built around that specific location. If you're just planning on going out nomading it in the woods, that's not a plan. Another reason I see most bug out plans fail is people plan them around ideal conditions. It's daytime, the weather's nice, everyone's home, nobody's panicking, they got plenty of time. Well, emergencies don't come that way. So think about the most likely thing that would cause you to bug out. These things usually happen at night. Roads are bad, maybe they're flooded or impassable for some reason. Maybe it's raining, snowing, lights are out, there's no communication. These are the things you need to think about. Now, none of these scenarios come with good conditions. Your plans falls apart as soon as the conditions get bad. Well, that's not a plan, that's a fair weather exercise. So you need to ask yourself this question. Can you execute your plan at 2 in the morning? Can you execute your plan in the rain or the snow? What if your wife's at work and the kids are at school? What if the main roads in your area are blocked or underwater? If the answer to any of these questions are no, then your plan has a condition problem. So how do you fix this problem? Well, you got to stress test your plan. Does your plan work in the rain? Does your plan work when your vehicle is not available? Build contingencies for each of these problems. Because your plan, if it don't work in the worst conditions, it's not a plan. So here's the next reason I see most plans fail. The rest of the family don't know the plan. So you've done the research, you've watched the videos, You figured out the location, you've stocked it up. The rest of the family, the wife, the kids, they know you're into prepping and they know there's a bag somewhere in the house, but they have no idea what it's for. And that's a single point of failure. You know, in a real SHTF scenario, you might not be home. You might be at work. You might not be able to get a hold of your family. Someone else is going to need to initiate the plan. If they don't know what the plan is, they're just going to sit around and wait. If the plan only lives in your head, then it dies the moment you're not there to execute it. You know, I've talked to preppers who spent thousands of dollars on gear, and their spouse doesn't even know where the bag is. That's not a plan. That's a hobby. So the fix, hey, have the conversation. Sit down with your wife, your spouse, your kids. Let them know what the plan is. Let them know what to do if they have to execute it without you. Let them know where the location is, how to get there, and run them through it. I mean, actually physically go do it so that they're prepared in case you're not available. Because a plan that only one person knows isn't a plan. It's not a family plan. It's a personal plan that leaves your family behind. Now, here's a big one I see a lot of people do. They'll have a route picked out, but all they've ever done is drive it. They've never actually physically walked that route. And this is one of the biggest, like, universal failures that I see. You know, you've been down the route 100 times. You know every turn. You know how long roughly it's going to take. But you've never traversed it on foot before. Carrying all that weight at night in potentially bad conditions, that completely changes that experience. You know, obstacles that you blow past at 40 mile an hour on the road become real problems on foot. Low water bridges, terrain, you know, a stretch of road that seems to go by pretty quick on the road when you're driving can be brutal on foot when you're carrying a bug out bag. You know, here in the Ohio Valley, the terrain's not exactly unforgivable. You got to be prepared to climb hills, go through hollers, cross creeks, muddy areas. All these things you're not going to see while you're driving your route. So how do you fix this problem? Walk your route, the entire thing, at least once before you need it. Take your bag, note all the obstacles that you're going to come along the way, note where they're at, and make sure your family knows about it and that they go with you. Find your shortcuts. Find where you can cut through and where you can't. No amount of research is going to replace actually doing it. The next reason, your bug out bag's so heavy, it becomes a liability. Now, I covered this in my bug out bag video. I'll put a link down in the description and probably at the end of this video as well. This is one of the single most common points of failure I see. A bug out bag that you can't carry 10 miles over rough terrain isn't an asset. It's a bag full of gear. Now, I've seen people with packs 60, 80 pounds. Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, this is fine while they're standing there in the living room. Try 10 miles in the terrain in the Ohio Valley, that bag's going to bring you to your knees. Here's what nobody talks about. Your physical condition in a bug out situation may not be the best. You might be sleep deprived. It might be 2 in the morning. You might be trying to manage other people. Your body's going to have less energy to give under these stressful situations than it's going to have on a nice Saturday afternoon. So how do you fix this problem? Well, you got to strip down your bug out bag to only what you need to get you from point A to point B. Go watch the bug out video. It explains that very well. Next reason I see a lot of bug out plans fail, there's no communication plan beyond your cell phone. So what do you do when the cell towers are out? Most scenarios are going to trigger you to bug out. Floods, infrastructure failure, grid down events. Cell towers are one of the first things to go. Towers go down, the system gets overwhelmed. Do you have a plan for that? So what's your plan for when your family can't reach you? What do they do? Where do they go? How long do they wait? Is there a rally point set up? Most people don't have the answers to those questions. So you need to have layers of communication. Of course, cell phone's probably going to be number one. But you also need to have radios and a no comms plan. What do they do if they can't reach you and it's just silence? Make sure you got a rally point set up. They know how long to wait before moving on. and what that looks like in an SHTF situation. Have a clear protocol that everybody knows that what it means when there's silence. Okay, and here's the last reason that I see why all these plans fail. They've never really been tested. At least never been tested on anything close to real circumstances. So this is the hardest truth of this video. You know, you can plan for years, you can spend thousands of dollars on gear, and you can watch every prepping video on YouTube. But if you haven't tested your plan in real conditions with the real weight of your bug out bag on your real route, then you don't really know if the plan works or not. It might look good on paper, but if you haven't tested it in real life, it's not really a plan. Listen, this is the most basic requirement for calling this a plan. If you haven't tested it, it's just a hypothesis. You don't want to be testing a hypothesis during a real emergency situation. Testing your plan reveals everything the other problems that I've mentioned don't. You're not going to know if your route has problems till you walk it. You're not going to know if your bug out bag's too heavy until you carry it. You're not going to know if your family knows the plan until you ask them to execute it without your help. Every failure you find while you're testing your plan is a fix you can make before you actually need to execute it. And that's the whole point of this video. So you need to set up a test as soon as possible. Walk your route, take your family, note every problem, and fix every problem, and then test it again. The goal here isn't a perfect test. The goal here is to find every problem and fix every problem before you need it. So here's the bottom line. Most bug out plans don't fail because of bad gear or bad intentions. They fail because of gaps. Gaps in planning, gaps in communications, gaps in testing, gaps in execution. So every one of the problems that I just walked you through are fixable. They don't require a massive budget. They just require honesty about where your plan is weak and where you need to fix it before it's too late. So go through this list. No specific bug out location. Fix it now. Plan only works in perfect conditions. You need to stress test it. Family doesn't know the plan. You need to have that conversation. Route's never been walked. Test that out as soon as possible. Bag's too heavy. Strip it down. No communications plan? Build one and write it down. Plan's never been tested in real conditions. Do it as soon as possible. Look, all these gaps in your plans are fixable. And none of them are complicated, but they're all critical. Look, the people who survive most emergencies aren't the ones with the most gear. They're the ones whose plan actually worked when everything fell apart. So make the plan and test it out. Hey guys, so if this video was helpful, share it out with somebody who thinks you're prepared. Maybe they got some gaps in their plans. Hit all the buttons, do all the things. We really appreciate it. This has been Ohio Valley Prepping. Stay prepped, stay ready. We'll see y'all on the other side. Thanks for stopping by.